Welcome to Eldercare Financial Radio, bringing you the latest information on how to pay for long-term care in the most tax-efficient, cost-effective way possible. Whether you have a loved one who's already in a nursing home and spending thousands of dollars each month to pay for care, or you're simply planning ahead, you'll hear ideas that will allow you to pay for long-term care without going broke in the process. Here's your host, David Seitzer.
Hello, I'm your host, David Seitzer. Thanks for joining us for Eldercare Financial Radio. Many of you may know me from Project Veteran Aid, an organization set up to educate and assist veterans with their benefits. In just a few minutes, I'll share with you how to receive a free copy of my book, The Darkroom of Eldercare Cost: How to Identify the Light Switches to Pay for Home Health Care and Extended Care Needs, along with a custom Eldercare financial information kit. Today I want to speak to you about those dark rooms we often ventured into as young, curious children. Let me ask you, do you remember going into Grandpa and Grandma's house as a kid and going into their basement? Remember the musty smell of dirt as you approached the door? As you swung it open, it was dark, and you didn't know whether to go in or not, so you slowly slip your hand around the edge of the door, and you feel the cobwebs and patches of cold on the wall. Peeling paint comes loose at your fingertips. Your heartbeat begins to race as you search up and down for the light switch, but you can't find it. Now you find yourself almost a full step into the darkness, and you attempt to look at the other side of the door for the elusive light switch. As you slowly move towards the center of the room, searching for the string hanging from the light bulb that you feel certain is there, you bump into several items, wondering how much further. Will you find it? Will you stub your toes? Or will you trip into a vast expanse of emptiness? Well, folks, welcome to the dark room of elder care. If you're like many of us out there, you find yourself quickly approaching the very same scary basement or dark room as you recognize the needs of your parents or grandparents or other loved ones as they age. Alas, what I want to do today is help shed some light on the reality of escorting them through the difficult phase of life. I want to help you locate the light switches and begin to show you options of how you can successfully manage their needs, pay for their care, and identify the most cost-effective, tax-efficient methods to meet their needs, and possibly prevent this from happening to you and your children in the future. I've covered all the different switch plates in my book, The Darkroom of Elder Care: How to Identify the Light Switches to Pay for Home Health Care and Extended Care. Our books are Amazon bestsellers and will provide you details on how to protect your family's assets from the devastating cost of long-term care, even if your loved one or an aging parent is already in a nursing home, spending thousands of dollars each month. Well over 13,000 families have already benefited from this information, and we would love to provide it to you as well. I recently met a listener of the show who asked me why I chose to become an expert on paying for long-term care. When I started my career in the healthcare business, it was right out of school from Deaconess College of Nursing. I knew I wanted a career helping people, but quickly learned that being a nurse was not the avenue for me. As a third-generation military veteran, I learned of a little-known veteran benefit that we'll discuss later, and I began a long, labor-intensive process of attempting to secure the benefits for my own aging parents. You see, what happened was, on my parents' 50th anniversary, Dad had his first of many strokes that would take its toll on him for many years. Mom worked hard at providing care, and eventually, after 64 years of marriage, they both had a stroke within 3 days of one another. At that moment, I became like many of you. I was sandwiched between raising my own family and acting as a primary caregiver to both of my parents. With the prospects of a long and often intensive extended care needs for both, I discovered what I had known all along. My calling was to provide services to aging folks just like many of you and your parents. I naturally focused on veterans, their spouses, and families initially, and soon expanded to non-veterans. I've trained and mentored folks from all around the United States to assist families in their regions, and now I've settled in my own backyard here in the St. Louis metropolitan region to help you figure out the most tax-efficient, cost-effective way to pay for a loved one's care. During the show, I will provide you with informational strategies I've learned over the last 26 years on how to pay for long-term care in the most tax-efficient, cost-effective way possible. We'll cover how to use government programs like Medicaid to pay for long-term care, even if you're already in a nursing home. We'll discuss the very same little-known veterans benefit that I used for my parents, which can provide qualifying veterans with up to $26,000 a year on a tax-free basis to pay for long-term care. We'll finish the show up by discussing another little-known law that actually allows you to create and pay for long-term care using a tax-free pool of money. The information strategies you will hear will certainly challenge the old, outdated financial planning advice regarding long-term care that you've been provided by your local stockbrokers, insurance agents, and so-called experts. We recently met with a listener of the show who was both surprised and frustrated to learn that she had been missing out on over $26,000 of tax-free money from the Department of Veteran Affairs Administration to help pay for her home health care. While she was very happy to learn she was now eligible to receive the $26,000 benefit, she was extremely frustrated that her advisor, who she had been paying fees to for over 15 years and relied upon, knew nothing about this benefit for which she was entitled. While I empathized with her frustration, it did not surprise me one bit that her advisor had dropped the ball. As a matter of fact, I found most advisors are too busy trying to be all things to all people, and they often fail to become an expert at any one life-changing thing. Unlike 99.9% of the advisors out there, I and my partner, Don Quante, chose to dedicate our careers to helping families learn how to pay for long-term care in the most tax-efficient and cost-effective way possible.
To receive a free copy of David's book, The Dark Room of Eldercare Cost, call 800-256-1607. That's 800-256-1607.
As promised, I will discuss how to use Medicaid and the veterans' benefits to pay for long-term care, even if your spouse or loved one is already in a nursing home. Before I do, I want to provide a word of caution, though. Currently, there's a great deal of pressure on the Medicaid system, partially caused by the high cost to treat Alzheimer's. As a matter of fact, the average per-person Medicaid spending for seniors with Alzheimer's and other dementia-related conditions is 19 times higher than the average per-person Medicaid spending for all other seniors. Take into consideration that someone's diagnosed with Alzheimer's every 68 seconds in this country. With almost 10,000 baby boomers turning 65 each and every day, it's just a matter of time before the Medicaid system will go broke. So if you're healthy now and relying upon Medicaid in 5, 10, or 15 years down the road to pay for your long-term care, you will quickly realize the plan may be flawed. However, if you, a spouse, a loved one, or an aging parent who is currently in need of long-term care, we can help. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of how Medicaid for long-term care actually works, we need to clear up the common misconception regarding Medicare and Medicaid. To be clear, while these words sound very similar, they are as different as comparing apples to oranges. Let me first start with Medicare. This is the primary health care plan for those age 65 and above. While it is true that Medicare will pay for some long-term care, it is limited to 100 days of care. So in reality, we should define any benefit that comes out of Medicare as a short-term care. Medicaid, on the other hand, is a joint federal and state program designed to help people over age 65 pay for their long-term care. While the program is federally mandated, each state can have less restrictive rules than federal law. They simply cannot be more restrictive. As a result, here in Missouri, if you're married, you can keep your home, a business property, one car, personal contents, up to $1,500 of cash value in a life insurance policy, and an irrevocable prepaid funeral plan. While most people are happy to learn they can hang on to these assets I just mentioned, most folks are usually more concerned about their liquid assets, like checking, savings, CDs, their 401ks, and IRAs, along with any other type of non-exempt asset. Let me demonstrate how Medicaid can actually work in your favor. I want to share with you how we were able to help one of our clients last week. For the sake of this example, we'll call our couple Mary and Bill. At age 78, Bill was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and after 4 years of caring for Bill at home, Mary's health was beginning to fail. After meeting with Bill's physician, it was determined that in the best interest of everyone, Bill would need skilled nursing home care. As you might expect, Mary was frightened by the prospect of needing to pay over $6,000 a month for Bill's nursing home costs and still keep a roof over her head. After all, with the exception of the Alzheimer's, Bill's physical health was generally speaking pretty good. The doctor could not predict exactly how long Bill would live, but suspected he might live 5 years or more. While Mary and Bill were not wealthy, they had accumulated moderate assets in checking, savings, annuities, and IRAs, about $423,000. Since these assets are considered liquid, they are countable in the state of Missouri. In order to qualify Bill for Medicaid and have Medicaid pay for the nursing home cost, we completed a division of asset calculation as required by Medicaid. This simply means that we divided their $423,000 of countable assets by 2. While you might expect if you divided the asset by 2, they each would receive $211,500. However, here in Missouri, the maximum amount the healthy spouse, in this case Mary, would only be able to keep $123,000. The other $300,000 of their assets would need to be spent down on Bill's nursing home cost before he could qualify for Medicaid and have Medicaid pay for their nursing home expense. While Mary was pleased to learn she was not going to lose all of her assets, she was still very concerned about how she would live with her limited income and only $123,000 of the remaining assets. Now, since Don and I have helped over 13,000 families with these kind of case facts over the last 26 years, I shared with Mary a little-known law called OBRA 93. By applying the principles covered in the OBRA 93 law, we were able to protect the other $300,000. We were able to convert it into an income stream that complied with the little-understood OBRA 93 law. As a result, Mary was pleasantly surprised to learn that Bill could qualify for Medicaid immediately, and she could maintain their entire nest egg of $423,000. That was a light switch in her dark room of Eldercare. Okay, if you would like to learn more about how we can help your family avoid the devastating cost of long-term care, please call 1-800-256-1607. Schedule a free 1-hour consultation where we will show you specifically how this strategy would apply to your family's situation. And you'll leave the meeting with the free copy of my book, The Dark Room of Eldercare, How to Identify the Light Switches to Pay for Home Health and Extended Care, along with an Eldercare Financial Information Kit. It's time for a short break, but when we come back, we will cover how Medicaid planning works for a single individual, how qualifying veterans can receive up to $26,000 a year tax-free to pay for long-term care, and we will finish up by discussing another little-known law that allows you to receive tax-free money for long-term care.
To receive a free copy of David's book, The Dark Room of Eldercare Cost, call 800-256-1607. That's 800-256-1607. We'll be right back on Eldercare Financial Radio. Welcome back to Eldercare Financial Radio. To receive a free copy of David's book, The Dark Room of Eldercare Cost, call 800-256-1607. That's 800-256-1607.
Welcome back. During our last segment, we discussed how the Medicaid planning process works if you're a married couple and one of the spouses is in need of nursing home care. I want to shift gears now and talk about how Medicaid can pay for nursing home care if you're a single person. In Missouri, a single person can keep the following assets and still qualify to Medicaid to pay for your nursing home expenses. The assets you get to keep are your home, one car, the personal contents, term life insurance, $1,500 of cash value insurance policy, and the irrevocable prepaid funeral plan, very much like a couple. However, often families want to know about other assets like their checking, savings, CDs, mutual funds, and IRAs. All too often I hear family members say, "Does the state of Missouri take all of Mom's money?" You've heard people say that before, haven't you? Well, let me just say, the facts are different. Allow me to explain. A single person can only keep $2,000 of assets in order to qualify for Medicaid. As a result, this means we need to use creative financial planning strategies, often not found by working with the average stockbroker, insurance agent, or financial planner. For over 35 years, my partner Don Quante and I have specialized in working on these types of difficult cases and have helped over 13,000 families. Let me demonstrate how a single person with $120,000 of assets might qualify for Medicaid to pay for the nursing home expenses. I'll use a real-life scenario where one of our listeners, after hearing our show, came in to see me regarding her mother. Her mom was age 82 and recently suffered a severe stroke and was now in a nursing home paying $6,000 a month. As I met with the daughter, it became obvious that the objective was to make sure that Mom would receive quality care without going broke in the process. I explained to her that the maximum amount her mom could have and qualify for Medicaid was $2,000. And in this case, since Mom had accumulated a nice little nest egg of $120,000, unfortunately without any pre-planning, at $6,000 a month, she would be out of money in less than 20 months. What we needed was a strategy that would allow Martha to qualify for Medicaid and still protect some of her nest egg. She needed a light switch in the darkroom of Eldercare to help her navigate the crisis of going broke. The strategy we decided upon, we refer to as the half-a-loaf strategy. By implementing the strategy, we were able to protect over $69,000 for the future and qualify Martha for Medicaid 7 months sooner than originally expected.
To receive a free copy of David's book, The Dark Room of Eldercare Cost, call 800-256-1607. That's 800-256-1607.
Also, if you're a human resource director at your place of business, reach out to us and we'll provide a lunch and learn program at your business to educate your employees in advance of their personal care crisis with family members. In my book, The Dark Room of Eldercare, How to Identify the Light Switches to Pay for Home Health and Extended Care Needs, we dedicated a full chapter to my personal favorite and little-known veteran benefit called the Aid and Attendance Pension Benefit that can help qualifying veterans and their spouses receive up to $26,000 a year on tax-free basis to pay for long-term care. If you're a veteran and would like to receive a free copy of my book, call 1-800-256-1607. That's 1-800-256-1607. While up to $26,000 a year tax-free benefit to pay for long-term care would be helpful for many veterans, there are currently nearly 2 million veterans or widows who are likely missing out on this benefit. A VA study said that veterans are generally unaware that this program exists, and only 1 in 7 widows that probably could qualify actually get the monthly checks. Let me provide an overview of how you may qualify for this benefit. If you're a veteran or the widow of a veteran, in order to qualify for the Aid and Attendance Pension Benefit, the veteran must have served 90 days of active duty with at least 1 day served during a wartime period, and have any discharge other than a dishonorable discharge. Let me be clear that it's not necessary for the veteran to have been in a battle theater. Simply serving during the period of war is necessary. Assuming that you meet the criteria I just mentioned, the application and qualifying process measures 3 distinct values: your income, medical expense, and countable assets. Once approved, this benefit will provide up to $26,000 a year that you can use to pay for home care, assisted living, and nursing home care. In October of 2018, the Veterans Administration radically changed the formula for benefits, and you will want to call us to determine your specific eligibility for these benefits. With the changes, there are more people now eligible while simultaneously disallowing many veterans. Again, we will educate you on the changes and the impact to you or your loved one. I promised at the beginning of the show that I would share with you a little-known law that can allow you to create a large pool of money and then use it to pay for long-term care on a tax-free basis. Recently, I was speaking in Nashville to over 100 top financial planners from across the country on the topic of long-term care planning. I was surprised at the lack of knowledge as it pertained to long-term care funding strategies, and particularly the Pension Protection Act. I started my lecture by asking for a show of hands in an attempt to determine how many people understood the Pension Protection Act. Much to my disbelief, not one advisor in the room raised their hand. At that moment, it dawned on me that unfortunately, most advisors are too busy trying to be all things to all people, and they fail to become experts at any one thing, particularly long-term care, and how to guide their clients through the crisis of the cost of care expenses. Unfortunately for you, the consumer, this trend is problematic. The one thing that could maybe make a difference in whether you die broke in a nursing home or have choices to receive your care at home or in an assisted living could have easily been covered by simple pre-planning using the Pension Protection Act. So let's assume you're a middle-aged couple concerned about long-term care expenses and the devastating impact it could have on your future financial well-being. I would suggest that you ask yourself the following 3 questions to determine the correct course of action as it pertains to the Pension Protection Act. The first question you should ask yourself is, if I got sick tomorrow and needed long-term care, where would I want to receive my care at? Now, if you're like most people, you would say at home with home health care professionals tending to your needs. Currently, this is where 78% of the people receive their care. Herein lies the problem. The normal amount of home health care needed to keep you out of a nursing home can easily cost upwards to $8,000 per month. Put another way, you could easily burn through $200,000 in less than 2 years paying for home care. Now, the second question you should ask yourself is, if I need home care totaling $200,000 in cost, which asset should I liquidate first to pay for that care? A normal response might be to use savings, CD, or maybe an existing annuity you currently own. Regardless of the answer to the second question, the third question you should ask yourself is, can I benefit by using the Pension Protection Act? The answer is a resounding yes. Let's assume that you have a nice nest egg and have saved between your 401k, your IRA, checking, savings, and an annuity. Let's assume, for purposes of this discussion, you decided you would use your annuity, valued at $200,000, to pay for long-term care. Now, by simply transferring the existing annuity you own into an annuity that conforms with the Pension Protection Act, you could immediately create a tax-free pool of money of almost $1 million. These tax-free dollars could be used to pay for the cost of home care, assisted living, or nursing home expenses. Now, to be clear, if you passed away, you're not leaving $1 million to your family. The Pension Protection Act provides for the extra funding to pay for your care. That, my friends, is a very important light switch in your dark room of elder care. What I really want to drive home in this discussion are options. Options to pay for care using strategies that position your assets into cost-effective, tax-efficient use of your hard-earned savings. Recently, my business partner Don Quanta and I were sharing this concept with an existing client of ours that Don had been working with for over 20 years. Because he and his wife are now in their mid-70s, he asked me if this is something that he could do with his IRA, since, like most baby boomers, this is where most of his assets were established. Unfortunately, the Pension Protection Act will not work with the IRA. However, and this is a big however, I did share a rather unique patented strategy that he could use to have his IRA account provide long-term care as well. We suggested he transfer, on a tax-free basis, a little over $100,000 of his IRA money to a new IRA that would then double as long-term care and provide both he and his wife a tax-favored monthly check of over $7,000 a month that they could then use to pay for home care, assisted living, or the nursing home expenses. I guess the moral of the story is, if you're concerned about the devastating cost of long-term care and how it can affect your retirement in the future, you owe it to yourself to take a look at some of these creative options. or as I call them, light switches, that are now available. Whether you decide to use some of your checking, savings, CDs, an annuity, or part of your 401k or your IRA, it's totally your decision. The reality is that there is a much more tax-efficient, cost-effective way to pay for long-term care than you might have originally expected. Now, the next step is an easy one. Pick up the phone, call 1-800-256-1607. That's 800-256-1607, and schedule a free 1-hour consultation where in private we can discuss the most tax-efficient, cost-effective way for you to pay for long-term care for you or a loved one. The worst thing that can happen is we spend an hour together, you receive great information, a copy of my book, and the Eldercare Financial Information Kit. If you decide you're not interested, that doesn't bother me in the least, because I'm simply here to provide you with information that your broker or insurance agent is not telling you about. In other words, what you'll learn from the free consultation, my book, The Dark Room of Eldercare, How to Identify the Light Switches to Pay for Home Health Care and Extended Care Needs, and the custom tailored Eldercare Financial Information Kit will give you the information you need to make a decision on whether the strategies are right for you or not. It's completely up to you. If you're ready to begin the process of protecting your assets from the devastating cost of long-term care, give us a call at 1-800-256-1607. That's 1-800-256-1607. Someone's available to answer your call now or any day of the week. If you're serious about protecting your assets from the devastating cost of long-term care, then give me a call, and together we'll get started flipping switches on in your dark room of Eldercare. Protecting your assets will be one of your biggest returns, along with peace of mind.
You've been listening to Eldercare Financial Radio, bringing you the latest information on how to pay for long-term care in the most tax-efficient, cost-effective way possible. To receive a free copy of David's book, The Dark Room of Eldercare Cost, call 800-256-1607. That's 800-256-1607. Tune in next week for another edition of Eldercare Financial Radio.